I stood in the guest room, the one Brendan had always called his sanctuary when he was a teenager hiding from the world. The afternoon sun was warm, but the room felt cold. I was fluffing a pillow, trying to make it perfect. I'd even bought fresh flowers, bright yellow freesias, and was arranging them in a crystal vase on the nightstand. Their scent, usually so bright, seemed to get lost in the stillness of the room. My suitcase was open on the floor, half-packed for the Mediterranean. Brendan and Amelia's invitation 3 weeks ago had been a shock. A glossy card with turquoise water and a cruise ship. "Mom, we want you to join us, our treat." Brendan's handwriting, the same careful script he'd used to write me apology notes after breaking a window or missing curfew. I'd been so touched, I wept. I'd spent the last 3 weeks on a cloud, walking on air. I'd told everyone at my book club, my neighbor, even the mailman. I'd spent $800 I didn't really have on new linen pants, comfortable deck shoes, and a wide-brimmed hat. I'd gotten my first passport at 64 years old. The excitement was a physical thing, a hum under my skin that hadn't stopped. I'd hoped this trip would be the bridge. 5 years of their marriage, and Amelia had been perfectly, icily polite. A wall of glass between us I could never seem to break through. I'd imagined us on the deck, sipping cocktails, the warm sea air finally melting her reserve. I'd imagined Brendan looking at us, at his 2 favorite women, and smiling. I straightened the vase, my hand brushing the crisp new sheets I'd put on the bed for my return. Everything was ready. If you're watching this video, tell me where you're from or what time it is for you. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. I picked it up, expecting a message from Brendan about their flight to the port. It was from him. Just a single line of text, cold and black against the white screen. "You're uninvited to our cruise. Amelia doesn't want to babysit an old lady." I read it once, twice. The words wouldn't arrange themselves into a sensible sentence. They felt like nonsense, a prank. Babysit, old lady. I read it a 3rd time. The hum under my skin stopped. It didn't fade, it just ceased, like a plug pulled from a wall. I was no longer Miranda Thorne. I was an old lady, a burden, someone to be babysat. My gaze drifted from the screen to the new linen pants folded in my suitcase, the vibrant blue sundress I'd splurged on, the passport. The silence in the sanctuary was absolute. The freesias suddenly smelled funereal, their sweetness cloying and sick. The air, which had been warm, was now just stale. My hand was still holding the phone, but the object felt alien, heavy. My fingers went numb. The phone slipped. It hit the hardwood floor with a sharp, sickening crack. The sound was too loud for the quiet room. I stared at it, lying face down. The screen was surely shattered. I didn't move to pick it up. I sank onto the edge of the guest bed, my hand still frozen in the shape of the phone it had held. The new sheets crinkled under my weight. My bags were downstairs. My mail was being held. My garden was set on an automatic timer for a 3-week absence. The cruelty wasn't just in the words, it was in the timing. The cruise was in 3 days. They had waited. They let me shop. They let me pack. They let me tell my friends. They let me get my passport. They let me build a fantasy of belonging, and then, at the last possible second, they had taken a hammer to it. Not with a call, not with a conversation, with a text, an execution delivered by an algorithm. I looked at the cracked phone on the floor. That broken piece of glass would soon be the very least of Brendan's problems. I walked to the window, my feet moving on their own. The room overlooked the backyard. The old swing set was still there, the one I'd bought after his father, Daniel, died in the scaffolding collapse. Brendan was 12. For 20 years, it had been just us against the world, or so I had believed. The paint on the swing set was peeling, the chains rusted, but it was solid. I had built it myself, my own hands raw and bleeding, needing to build something that wouldn't fall. He'd spent hours out there telling me his dreams. He was going to be an architect, build houses that would last forever. Now he was building a family that had no room for me. He was building a life on the foundation I had given him, and then sealing the door to my room. My hands weren't shaking when I finally bent to pick up the phone. I wasn't crying. The time for tears was over. Something cold and hard had settled in my chest. It felt like steel. It felt like the woman Daniel had married, the one who had stared down the bank manager who tried to foreclose after the funeral, the one who had worked 2 jobs to keep this house. That woman hadn't been Mom in a long time. She had been dormant. But Brendan, with his casual, cowardly cruelty, had just woken her up. I didn't go back to my suitcase. I walked out of the sanctuary, down the hall, and into Daniel's old study. I hadn't touched much in here since he died. It still smelled of him, old books and the faint, sharp scent of the drafting pencils he used. I went to the heavy mahogany desk, opened the bottom left drawer, and pulled out a thick manila folder. Inside, under the banker's lamp, the document was crisp. Deed of trust. The property on Evergreen Street. The beautiful 3-bedroom colonial I had bought them as a wedding gift. The house they thought they owned. But I was a woman who had lost a husband to a workplace accident and knew the fine print of life. I knew what it meant to be left with nothing but promises. When I gave them that house, I gave them what they believed was ownership. But the legal title remained solely in my name. I had planned to sign it over fully on their 10th anniversary, or perhaps in my will. I saw it as a safety net. For them. I never imagined it would need to be a safety net for me or Janet. Brendan was an architect. He built houses. He was about to learn the difference between living in a house and owning the land it stands on. My phone was cracked, but it still worked. I found Brendan's name and pressed call. It rang twice, then went to voicemail. Of course it did. He was a coward. I sent a text. Pick up the phone. Now. A minute later, he called back. His voice was impatient, defensive. Mom, look, I got your message. I know you're upset about the cruise, but Amelia really feels... Brendan, I interrupted. My voice was calm. It was so calm, it scared me. We need to talk about the house on Evergreen Street. A long, heavy silence stretched across the line. I could hear the faint sound of airport announcements in the background. They were at the gate. What? What about it, Mom? His tone wasn't defensive anymore. It was confused. That's our house. You gave it to us. I let you live in it, dear, I said, my voice gentle. There's a very important difference. More silence. Then I heard her. Amelia, in the background. Her voice was a sharp, demanding shriek. What's she talking about? Brendan, what is she talking about? Tell her we're busy packing. Just hang up. He didn't hang up. Mom, what are you doing? I'm texting you some documents to review, I said. We'll discuss them when you return from your lovely, relaxing vacation. Have a wonderful time in the Mediterranean. Don't worry about me. I'll be just fine. I ended the call. I was in my lawyer's office at 9 the next morning. Matilda Crowe was a shark in a pinstripe suit, a woman I'd known for 30 years. She had handled Daniel's will. She was sharp, expensive, and had no patience for fools. He texted you, she asked, leaning back in her leather chair. She didn't look surprised. She looked hungry. After you bought the house, paid the down payment, and allowed them to live there rent-free for 5 years, structured as a conditional gift? He said Amelia didn't want to babysit an old lady, I said, placing the cracked phone on her desk. Matilda put on her reading glasses and examined the original gift agreement we had drafted 5 years ago. Her polished fingernail tapped on a specific paragraph. Here it is. Section 4, subsection B. The residency grant is contingent upon the continued maintenance of a relationship of mutual respect, familial care, and emotional support for the grantor, Miranda Thorne. He just voided his contract, Miranda, in writing. I want to reclaim the property, I said, immediately. That's not reclamation, Matilda smiled, a thin, sharp expression. That's enforcement. The property was always yours. You're simply evicting a tenant who has violated his lease. She picked up her phone. I'll file the notice of breach. We'll need a realtor. Do you have one in mind? I do, I said. Penelope Wade. I hear she's aggressive. She's a piranha, Matilda said approvingly. Good, let's get this done by lunch. By 3 o'clock that afternoon, it was done. Penelope Wade, a woman who moved like a hummingbird and spoke like a drill sergeant, had met me at the house on Evergreen. She didn't comment on the situation. She just walked through the home, noting the high-end appliances I'd paid for and the custom landscaping I'd approved. It's a hot market, Miranda, she said, all business. This neighborhood, 3-bedroom colonial, updated kitchen, it'll be gone in a week. We'll have offers by Monday. I need it gone faster, I said. Penelope looked at me, a flicker of understanding in her eyes. Understood. I'll list it as a priority sale. Cash offers preferred. Quick close. At 4 p.m., the for sale sign was hammered into the front lawn. The lawn, Napasisi or I, paid a service to mow every Thursday. At 4:01 p.m., Penelope sent me the link to the live listing. I forwarded it to Brendan. My only message, for your review. My phone started buzzing an hour later. It was 11 p.m. in Barcelona, where they were staying before the cruise departed. Brendan. I let it go to voicemail. Voicemail 1. Mom, call me back. What is this? Penelope Wade called me. She said you listed our house. This has to be a mistake. This is insane. Call me back right now. He called again. I let it go to voicemail. Voicemail 2. Miranda, this is Amelia. Her voice was shaking, the icy politeness replaced by pure, shrill panic. I don't know what you think you're doing, but this isn't funny. You're ruining our trip. You're ruining our lives. Take that sign down. Take it down now. He called again. Voicemail. Voicemail 3. Mom, please call me. Amelia is freaking out. She's making herself sick. I don't understand what's happening. Just tell me this is a joke. Tell me what you want. Do you want us to come home? We can't come home. We're flying home. Cancel this. Cancel whatever you think you're doing. I sipped the glass of Daniel's vintage bourbon I'd poured myself, the one I'd been saving for a special occasion. Apparently, this qualified. I wasn't canceling anything. I was accelerating. I was getting ready for bed, the bourbon warming my veins, when my phone buzzed with a text from a number I didn't recognize. Please don't tell him I'm texting you. This isn't Amelia. I stared at it. A cold knot formed in my stomach. I typed back, Who is this? The reply was instant. It's Amelia. I'm on a prepaid phone I bought at the airport. I'm in the hotel bathroom. He's asleep. I sat up, my buzz gone. What is going on? I'm so scared, Miranda. He's not himself. He's been wrong for months. He's on the phone all the time, whispering. He gets messages that make him sweat. The cruise. I think he was terrified of the cost, but more terrified of not going, like he had to prove something. My fingers flew. Amelia, what are you talking about? It's money. It's bad. He's desperate. When he saw the house listing, he didn't just get angry. He turned white. He said, She just killed me. She just killed us all. Miranda, what he did to you was horrible, I know, but please, I think he's in serious trouble. He's hiding something from me. He's terrified. I read the message. She just killed me. This wasn't about a ruined vacation. This wasn't about his pride. This was something else. Amelia, the woman who had treated me like a piece of furniture, was my unexpected ally. She was terrified, and that fear confirmed my decision was not just right. It was necessary. I wasn't just taking back a house. I was pulling a support beam out from under a rotten structure. The next morning, Penelope Wade called. Her voice was triumphant. Miranda, I don't know what kind of good karma you have stored up, but it's paying out, she said. What is it, Penelope? We have 3 offers, all above asking. One of them is a developer. He wants the land. He's offering cash, 15% over asking price, and he'll waive the inspection. He wants to close in 10 days. 10 days. They wouldn't even be back from their romantic cruise. They would land in Ohio to find their house sold, their locks changed, and their belongings in storage. The timing was so perfect, it felt like the universe itself was siding with me. "Accept the cash offer, Penelope," I said, my voice steady. 10 days is perfect. Send me the paperwork." I hung up and booked a room. A small, charming bed and breakfast in Vermont I'd seen in a travel magazine, a place Daniel and I had always dreamed of visiting in the fall. I was finally going. Alone. My phone rang again. Brendan. This time, I answered. "Mom, thank God, we've been trying to reach you. What is happening? Why is our house for sale?" His voice was a raw blend of panic and indignation. "I told you we'd discuss this when you returned, Brendan," I said, looking out my window at the garden I'd tended for 30 years. "How's the cruise? How's the... Mom? Our house is being sold. Amelia hasn't stopped crying since we found out. She's making herself sick over this." "I'm sorry Amelia is upset," I said, and I meant it. After her text, I truly was. But you both made your feelings about me very clear. I'm simply responding accordingly. "What feelings? Mom, you're being dramatic. Amelia just thought... She thought the cruise would be more romantic with just the two of us. It wasn't personal." I closed my eyes. I pictured the text. "Brendan, you called me an old lady. You said I needed babysitting. You uninvited me from a family vacation with less ceremony than you'd cancel a dentist appointment. How exactly? Was that not personal?" The line went dead quiet. I heard him take a shaky breath. I heard Amelia sobbing in the background. "Mom, just don't sell the house, please. We'll pay you rent if that's what you want. We'll figure something out. We'll..." "The house sold this morning, Brendan," I said, cutting him off. "Cash offer. It closes in 10 days. You'll need to arrange for a moving company to get your things from storage when you get back." The silence that followed was absolute. I wondered if the call had dropped. Then, a small, broken voice. A voice I hadn't heard since he was 12. Where are we supposed to live?" "I don't know, son," I said, my voice firm but not unkind. "But I suspect you'll figure it out. You're both very resourceful adults." I hung up the phone and started to pack. I didn't pack for a cruise. I packed for a new life. I took one suitcase, clothes that made me feel strong, my favorite books, 2 pictures, one of Daniel, his eyes crinkling at the corners, and one of Brendan as a boy, sitting on the rusted swing set, beaming. I needed to remember both. I got in my car and drove. I didn't look back. I drove for 8 hours, stopping only for gas and coffee. As I crossed the state line into Vermont, the autumn colors exploded. The trees were on fire with red and gold, a world away from the polite, manicured lawns of my Ohio suburb. I pulled into the Mountain View Guest House, a rambling white farmhouse with a wide porch and chimneys puffing out apple-scented smoke. The owner, Sylvia, was a woman my age with kind eyes and a no-nonsense handshake. "You must be Miranda," she said, grabbing one of my bags. "You look like a woman who needs some peace and a slice of my homemade apple pie." "You have no idea, Sylvia," I murmured. That night, I sat by a real fireplace, wrapped in a quilt, and felt something unwind in my chest. I was 64 years old. I was technically homeless, and my son hated me, and I had never felt more at peace in my entire life. The peace lasted for 48 hours. I was eating scones and drinking coffee with Sylvia, watching geese land on a small pond when my phone rang. It was Matilda Crow. "Miranda, I'm glad I caught you. We have a problem." My stomach tightened. "What problem?" "The sale is final. The papers are signed." "They were," Matilda said, her voice grim. "Brendan filed an emergency ollis pendens against the property from Barcelona. He's claiming you're mentally incompetent. He's alleging elder abuse and that he's the rightful owner of the property, which you're trying to sell out from under him due to dementia. I gripped the coffee mug. What? He can't do that. He can, and he did. A lis pendens is just a notice of a pending lawsuit. It doesn't mean he'll win, but it creates a cloud on the title. And our cash buyer just backed out. He doesn't want to be entangled in a family legal battle. The scone turned to ash in my mouth. The advantage was gone. The quick, clean victory was destroyed. The sale was frozen. What does this mean, Matilda? It means your son has just declared war, Miranda, and it means you need to come home. You've been legally accused of being mentally unfit. We have a court hearing in 5 days. You have to be there. I checked out of the Mountain View guest house an hour later. Sylvia hugged me. "You go fight, Miranda," she said, pressing a bag of scones into my hand. "Some battles are worth the drive." My trip was over. The drive back to Ohio was different. I wasn't an escapee. I was a warrior. I wasn't running from anything. I was driving toward a fight. Brendan thought I was a frail old lady. He thought I was weak. He thought that by throwing legal terms and baseless accusations, he could scare me. He had forgotten who I was. He had forgotten the woman who had built that swing set with her bare hands. I didn't stop for scenic views. I drove through the night, fueled by coffee and a cold, pure rage. He hadn't just uninvited me. He hadn't just tried to steal my house. He had attacked my mind, my competency. He had tried to use my age as a weapon against me. He had no idea the war he had just started. I walked into Matilda Crow's office at 8 a.m., looking like I'd been dragged through a hedge, but my eyes were clear. "He's not going to win this, Miranda," Matilda said, handing me a strong coffee. "His claim is frivolous. We'll file a motion to dismiss. We'll countersue for legal fees and slander of title. It doesn't matter," I said. Matilda stopped. "What do you mean it doesn't matter? He just cost you a premium cash sale." "It doesn't matter why I think he did it. The cruise, the insult, that's not the real reason." I told her about Amelia's text, about the desperation, the fear. "He's in some kind of trouble, Matilda. The lawsuit isn't a strategy. It's a desperate, last-ditch attempt to get money. He doesn't care about the house. He needs the cash." Matilda stared at me. Then she slid a different document across the desk. "I was going to wait to show you this. It was filed yesterday. I think it confirms your theory. It wasn't from Brendan. It was a divorce filing. From Amelia." "She filed as soon as they landed," Matilda said quietly. "Read paragraph 3. I read it. "Respondent has, without the petitioner's knowledge, accrued significant personal debts, estimated to be in excess of $80,000. Funds acquired through illegal gambling and unsecured high-interest loans." I sat back, the paper trembling in my hand. $80,000. Illegal gambling. Amelia wasn't just scared. She was running. The lis pendens wasn't an attack on me. It was a failed cash grab by a drowning man. Brendan and Amelia were scheduled to land that evening. Matilda had a process server waiting for them at the airport with the divorce papers for him, and a summons for them both to her office the next morning. When Brendan walked into the conference room, he looked like a ghost. He hadn't slept. He looked like he'd aged 10 years. Amelia wasn't with him. She's at her sister's," he mumbled, sinking into a chair. He wouldn't look at me. "Brendan," I said, my voice quiet. "Mom." He finally looked up and his eyes were hollow. "Mom, you have to help me. You have to call off the sale. You have to give me the house." "The lis pendens. You filed already took care of the sale, Brendan," Matilda said sharply, sliding a copy onto the table. "An act of perjury, by the way, claiming your mother is incompetent." "I didn't know what else to do," he burst out, his voice cracking. I'm in trouble. Bad trouble. I need money. I need it now." $80,000 to be precise, I said. He flinched, as if I'd slapped him. Amelia, she told you. She filed for divorce, Brendan, I said, sliding her petition across the table. He stared at it, his face crumbling. No, she wasn't. She wouldn't. He finally broke. He put his head in his hands and sobbed, a raw, ugly sound that tore through the sterile office. It started small, he whispered, his voice thick. Poker with guys from work, then some online stuff. It got out of hand. I thought I could win it back. I just needed one good win. But they just kept... Mom, they're not nice people. So you filed a legal document claiming your mother has dementia to try and steal her assets, Matilda stated, her voice flat. I was desperate, he yelled. You don't understand. These people, they're not the bank. They said they know where Amelia works. They know where you live. I needed to protect you. By calling me an old lady and trying to steal my house, I asked. The pieces were clicking into place and the picture was terrifying. Who are these people, Brendan? Matilda asked, leaning forward. Which casino? Which online service? It's not a service, he stammered, wiping his face. It's a guy, a local bookie, but he's connected. Matilda's face darkened. She'd been investigating since I'd called her from Vermont. I've already made some inquiries, Brendan. The local bookie you've been dealing with isn't some small-timer. He's the front for an illegal loan sharking operation. The people you owe money to aren't just casinos. They're criminals. Brendan went pale. I just thought it was sports betting. It stops being just betting when you can't pay, Brendan, Matilda said. These people don't want your money anymore. Not really. $80,000 is too much for an architect to pay back quickly. They want you in their debt. They want leverage. My blood ran cold. Amelia's text. She just killed me. He wasn't worried about losing the house. He was worried about what these people would do when they found out his only source of a quick payout was gone. And by filing that lis pendens, he had just sent up a flare telling them exactly where the money was. Matilda picked up her desk phone. Brendan, you're not just in financial trouble. You're a material witness and possibly a victim in a much larger investigation. I'm making a call. You're not to say another word until I'm done. She dialed a number. Agent Calloway, please. This is Matilda Crow. Tell her it's about the architectural matter we discussed. Brendan looked at me, his eyes wide with terror. Agent? What? Mom, what's going on? Your lawyer has been busy, I said. An hour later, we were in a different conference room. This one was gray, sterile, and had a two-way mirror. Agent Samantha Calloway was all business, sharp eyes and a sharper suit. She laid out photos on the table. Mr. Thorne, she said, the men you owe money to are part of an organized crime ring we've been investigating for 18 months. They specialize in exactly this. They target professionals, doctors, lawyers, architects, people with clean credit and good reputations. They extend them credit for gambling, let them dig a deep hole, and then they offer a solution. A solution, I whispered. Money laundering, Agent Calloway said, looking at me. They need clean professionals to move their illegal money through legitimate channels. Your son, as an architect who handles large construction contracts and client escrow accounts, is the perfect vehicle. They don't want his $80,000, Mr. Thorne. They want you. Brendan looked like he was going to be sick. So what happens now? I asked, my voice shaking. Do I pay them? Absolutely not, Agent Calloway said. First, it's illegal. You'd be participating in their scheme. Second, it wouldn't work. They don't want to be paid off. They want him on their payroll. Paying them would just prove he's a reliable asset. So he's trapped, I said. There's one way out, Calloway said, her gaze fixing on Brendan. The only way out. These men are careful. We've never been able to get close. But you're on the inside. You're desperate. They're about to make their move and offer you a job to clear your debt." "What job?" Brendan whispered. "Your next assignment. Probably moving a sum of money through one of your accounts. We want you to take that meeting. We want you to wear a wire. We want you to help us build the case that will put them away for good." "You want me to be an informant?" Brendan recoiled. "They'll kill me. They'll kill Amelia. They'll kill my mom." "They're already threatening you," I said, finding my voice. "The only difference is, this way, we have Agent Calloway and her team on our side. This is the only way you get your life back, Brendan." Calloway nodded. "You cooperate. You help us take them down. You'll likely face charges for the illegal gambling, but we'll recommend probation and mandatory counseling. You don't cooperate, you're on your own. And sooner or later, they will force you to break the law. Then you'll be ours anyway, only without a deal." Brendan stared at the table. He was trapped by his own lies, his own weakness, and I was the only one who could give him the strength to do what came next. We met at a crowded coffee shop the next day, a neutral public space. Brendan hadn't slept at all. He was visibly trembling, his eyes darting to every person who walked through the door. "Mom, I can't do this," he whispered as soon as I sat down. They texted me this morning." He slid his phone across the table. It was a picture of Amelia, walking from her car into her sister's apartment building, a picture taken that morning. Underneath, a message: "We're getting impatient. We know you have the house. Get the money. Or we come see your pretty wife." For the first time since this started, I felt pure, unadulterated fear. They weren't just threatening him. Brendan. I reached across the table and grabbed his shaking hands, holding them tight. "This is why you have to do this. This doesn't stop. Don't you see? It will never stop. This is your one and only chance to end it, to protect her, to protect us." He looked at me, his eyes brimming with tears. "How did I get here, Mom? How did I become this person? The kind of person who texts his mother?" "You got here by making small, bad choices," I said, my voice firm. "And now you have a chance to make one big, right choice. Agent Calloway has a team on Amelia. They're protecting her right now, but they can't protect her forever. Only you can. You have to do this." He stared into my eyes, searching for something. Maybe the mom who used to check for monsters under his bed. She was gone. In her place was a woman who was telling him to face the monster. He finally nodded, a single jerky motion. "Okay, I'll do it. I'll wear the wire." 3 days later, I was sitting in the back of a dark surveillance van. It smelled like stale coffee and anxiety. Agent Calloway was next to me, a bank of monitors glowing in front of her. "He's moving," an agent in the front seat said. On the monitor, I saw Brendan. He was walking across the parking lot of a desolate, half-empty strip mall. He was wearing the wire. He was carrying a briefcase, supposedly full of the first $20,000 payment. It was full of marked bills. A black sedan was parked at the far end of the lot. 2 men were inside. Brendan approached the passenger side window. It rolled down. "He's wired," Calloway said, putting in an earpiece. "We have audio." The speakers in the van hissed to life. "Got the first part," I heard Brendan say. His voice was shaking. "Get in the car, architect," a gruff voice said. Brendan got in the back seat. My heart stopped. "You're late," a new voice said. "And you're short. 80 grand. You owe us. This is 20. "My mom," Brendan stammered. "The house sale. It's complicated. Legal problems. This is all I could get." A harsh laugh. "We don't care about your mommy problems. You have a new problem. This doesn't even cover the interest. You're not paying us back, Brendan. You're going to work for us." "Work?" Brendan asked, following the script. "We have a client payment, $150,000. It needs to be cleaned. It's going to be deposited into your firm's escrow account tomorrow. You're going to list it as a client retainer. 3 days later, you're going to cut a check from that account to an LLC we own. Simple. Your first job. My stomach turned. Money laundering. They were doing it. Right now. He just detailed the entire assignment, Calloway whispered, her eyes alight. He just confessed to conspiracy to commit money laundering. We've got them. She spoke into her mic. Team A, Team B, execute, now. On the monitors, I saw 2 black SUVs which had been parked and waiting, peel out and box in the sedan. Before the men inside could even react, agents were out, guns drawn. FBI, hands in the air, hands in the air! I watched, holding my breath, as the car doors were ripped open. The 2 men were dragged out, slammed against the trunk, and cuffed. It was fast, brutal, and efficient. An agent opened the back door of the sedan. Brendan stumbled out, his hands up, looking pale as death. An agent grabbed him, put him in a separate car, and drove him away from the scene. He was safe. It was over. Back at the federal building, Agent Calloway debriefed us. His testimony was perfect, she said. The recording is crystal clear. We got them detailing the conspiracy, the threats against his wife. It's a rock-solid case. This operation is done. What happens to Brendan? I asked. He'll be charged with illegal gambling, Calloway said. But given his cooperation, the coercion, and the threats, I'm recommending probation. No jail time. He'll have a felony on his record, and he'll have mandatory addiction counseling for at least 2 years. He'll likely lose his architect's license, but he's free, and he and his wife are safe. He had lost his house, his career, and his wife's trust, but he was alive, and he was out. I met Brendan in the parking lot of the federal building. He looked exhausted, but the hollow terror was gone. He just looked empty. Mom, he said, stopping in front of me. I know I don't deserve it, but can we ever? I looked at my son. The man who had betrayed me, threatened me, and then in the end found the courage to do the right, terrifying thing. I'm going to Ireland, Brendan, I said, my voice soft. My flight is next week. I've rented a cottage in County Cork for 6 months. There's a friend, Pierce, waiting for me. His face fell. Oh, you're leaving. I am, I said. Our relationship isn't over, Brendan, but it's broken, and I can't be the one to fix it this time. You have to. You need to fix. I reached into my purse and pulled out a card with my new Irish address. You can write me letters, real letters, no texts. Tell me about your counseling. Tell me about the work you're doing. Tell me about how you're trying to earn back Amelia's trust. And when I come back, we'll see where we are. He took the card, his hand trembling. Just letters? For now. I need to go find out who Miranda Thorne is when she's not being Mom. And you need to find out who Brendan Thorne is when he's not depending on his mother to fix his life. He nodded, tears rolling down his face. I'm sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry. I know you are, I said. I hugged him. A real hug. It felt like a beginning, not an ending. Now go start the work. He walked away toward a taxi, and I walked to my rental car. 6 months later, I was sitting at a heavy wooden desk, looking out a window at the Irish Sea. The wind was howling and the waves were magnificent. My cottage was small, stone, and perfect. A letter was on the desk, the 3rd one I'd received from Brendan. I opened it. He was in his counseling program. He'd gotten a job with a construction crew, manual labor, but he said it felt good. Amelia had agreed to go to therapy with him. They were living in a tiny apartment. He was, day by day, rebuilding. I smiled, folded the letter, and put it away. My phone buzzed, a text from my friend, Pierce, the charming retired professor I'd been seeing. The pub is warm and the music is starting. Still have that bottle of wine we never opened, ready for that second chance? I looked at the waves. The woman who had received that cruel text about a cruise 6 months ago would have been devastated. She would have wondered what she'd done wrong. The woman sitting in this cottage, watching the storm roll in, knew exactly who she was. She was a woman who had faced down her son, her fear, and the Irish winter, and had found herself on the other side. I texted back, "On my way." If this story resonated with you, leave a like and consider subscribing. You can also drop any comment below, even just one word. Maybe tell me where you're watching from, or what time it is right now. Sometimes one word is enough to say you were here.